As you know, with 1.4, a lot of things have changed for the republics. I think it's worth to talk about it. In this guide, I will use just one of my random saves from Venice, where I basically conquered a little bit inside of Europe, inside of the HRE, and was going through a mission tree, but I wanted to talk about the government reforms. Though we will start slowly, tier by tier, and I will highlight which things are the most important ones, especially for each kind of tier, and what I think should be your top picks, especially in the beginning, and how you should behave when the game goes on. Of course, the tier 1 you can't decide, because mostly based on the country, your decision is already done. As Venice, for example, I have this Venetian government stuff. As a free city inside of the HRE, you have this free city stuff. Or if I am starting, for example, as Florence, I am the Italian Signora. For tier 1, there are additionally some special ones around. As you maybe know, Lübeck has their own with Trade League. As you maybe know, Dithmarschen has their own one with Peace and Republic. And even if you release a country like Zaporozhye, sorry if the spelling was wrong, they have their own kind of thing called Sigrada. So there are a lot of special kind of government reforms around for tier 1. Tier 2, there it starts getting interesting. You have a lot of good options. They've added some like meritocratic rule, they've added virtues of politia, and they've added religious values. Nevertheless, I still think republicanism is the best pick. Even if I feel like meritocratic rule with a plus 5% goods produced modifier is really nice, there's one bad thing in it. It's called burghers influence plus 10%. The problem with republics is that normally the burghers have already a lot of influence. So if you go here, normally you could already see, because you are a republic, you have already plus 15%. Additionally, 10% more from the government reforms could be really hurtful, because you will already always above 100%, and that could become really bad because you cannot revoke any kind of estate's power. When the game goes on, you can pick later authoritarianism. This plus 5% maximum absolutism, especially after the 16th century, is really good. Absolutism is really helpful because it buffs up your country. I have not changed here, but right now my absolutism slowly rises up and I have 25 right now, but as you could see, there's much more to get. Tier 3. I've picked here disperse across the cities because as Venice there are not so many good options, but the standard form I always would pick, especially in the first year, is frequent elections. Normally a free city, trade republic, or any other kind of republic has 4 years election cycle. With that one, you reduce it to 3 years. So that goes on really fast forward. If you are an Italian republic that has 12 years term duration, do not pick it. From 12 to 11 years, it's not worth it. But what you can go instead for is formalize the right of re-election. For example, in the Italian Republic, your ruler dies and you get a very bad options. You could force immediately a re-election. This could be sometimes an option and it's very nice. Or if you're running out of governing capacity later, you can consolidate power in the Doge and improve your government capacity. Or if you do not struggle yet with government capacity, you can do dispersed power across the cities. This is another good option too. So pick number 1 would be always frequent elections. Going forward, tier 4. Tier 4, especially in the beginning, I would go for expand temple rights, because in the beginning you will have a lot of temples and republics very fast go through the government reforms. So you will have that very early available and you will have temples in a lot of locations. They give you 33% more local tax and -2 local unrest. Very helpful. One more thing that is really interesting in tier 4 is the religion. Right now, because I'm Catholic, I have only lands of the church. But if you are Protestant, and you are a defender of faith, you have a very, very amazing government reform that gives you diplomatic reputation and improved relations and tax modifier. As Catholic, you don't have that, you get some bonuses with the Curia, but I think that's not worth it. There are some other religions like Zoroastrian and Thoron and Jewish that have special kind of bonuses for this tier 4 government reform. I will not go so much into detail with that because I think I focus mostly on the HRE inside of Europe. That's why I will not go into detail. Tier 5 actually very straightforward and I think very, very boring. Though the best pick is administrative divisions where you get plus 250 governing capacity. But if you already picked it in consulate power in the Doge, you already get 250, so you get another 250. If you do not need that, like I have in my run with Venice, I took cultural administration with plus 2 max promoted culture. It makes culture promotion cheaper, so this is a good pick too. Worth mentioning is Union of State. With that one, you can basically create trade posts, trade ports, and furthermore, vassals automatically transfer trade power to you as you are a trade league. So actually, this is very, very interesting. Though if you have just a normal oligarchy republic, this one would be a very, very interesting pick for you because you get much more trade power in your home node and in the other nodes. My first pick would always be administrative divisions followed by Union of States. Tier 6 again is interesting. Tier 6 is again your crossroad for the republic. If you say, hey, I don't want to be a republic anymore, I want to become a monarchy or theocracy, you can here with seize executive power, you can change to a monarchy, or with proclaim divine guidance, you can change to a theocracy. Normally, after the 16th century, it was worth to become a monarchy because you have way more absolutism. Furthermore, in tier 6, there are other options. For example, parliamentism that enables a parliament but disables call diet and disables nobility estate. I would not pick that at all. I think it's not worth it. Presidential system is maybe worth it if you want to stay a republic out of flair and flavor. The plus 5 maximum are worth it. Supremacy of the diet. I think this can be worth it, especially if you are staying a Terran republic, because that calling a diet no longer increases influence, but you get republic tradition instead. And as longer the elective terms period is, as more republican tradition you will get. For 12 years, for example, I think you get roughly 10 republican tradition, and that's really beneficial. The Attorney General I never picked because advisors give maybe more republican tradition, 0.32 per level. Though if you have 3 level 5 advisors, it's basically 0.3 republican tradition, but you pay a lot of money for them, and you cannot seize crown land. Not seizing crown land, I think it's not worth it. Even with the reform modifier with cheaper cost for the advisor's culture, I think it's not worth it. If you swim in money, you can pay the plus 5 advisors anyhow, so you don't need the cost reduction and you don't need this little benefit of the republican tradition. My first pick would always be, especially in the beginning, supremacy of the diet, and later on it would be presidential system. Worth noting is if you're inside of the HRE, there are 2 reforms that are really interesting. One is for the defense, basically it gives you more land force limit, and the other one gives you more diplomatic reputation. And I think if you play around a little bit with vassals, especially inside of the HRE, it's very helpful. And especially if you run a free city, one province challenge, you will have tier 6 already available in the 1480s. So keep that in mind. It could be very interesting, especially as a free city. I did not talk about embrace the economic theory. Plus 10% production efficiency, 0.1 inflation reduction. I think that's not worth it. because inflation you can always reduce with 75 admin points or with economic ideas, but if you have economic ideas, you would not pick it, you would pick Lockheon Proviso. To summarize, my two first picks would be always Lockheon Proviso or Empower the Burger. Tier 7, as the name states, economic matters. A lot of things that can improve your trade or your income with economic powers. So my first pick always would be Lockheon Proviso, but for that you need to have economic ideas. If you do not have that, there are other good options. For example, Empower the Burgers, because it gives you trade efficiency. Normally that's always a very, very good decision. Another interesting, maybe situational pick is mercantilistic approach, where you basically can promote mercantilism cheaper than usual. Additionally, if you take the debts from the burgers, you do not need to pay with mercantilism for it. As you maybe have seen, I took Embrace Free Trade. That does not make sense, but as Venice, I got so much power every month that I just decided for embracing global trade, because it's the 16th century, I switched over quickly to Embrace Free Trade, took global trade for 300 monarch points, and then I would change now back to Empower the Burgers. Tier 8, actually, with even out thinking and talking about it, the -2% all power cost, I think that is the best option to pick here. All the kind of other stuff like devolution of power. What should I do with +2 advisors? Come on. What should I do with sole consolidated power? Yes, the +725 maximum absolutism sound nice, but I lose 60 on a new ruler, and new man, you get a random candidate bonus +1. If you are there at that kind of point of state of game, I think this +1 is not so much beneficial. You will have maybe at the beginning of the 16th century, like I do, though I do not see there many good things. Like, of course, you get more policies for admin, diplomatic or military, but I have gone for the years of separation and plus maximum absolutism, because I think absolutism in the 16th century is the most important thing, so that's why it's my first pick. Winning wars grants you 5 republican tradition, okay, that's nice, and we want to win wars. The principle of enlightenment, I think that's not worth it. The 10 years of separatism, there are other ways to get it instead of taking innovative ideas. I think that's just not worth it. I think there are a lot of good options here inside. One of the good things is citizenry, plus 10% moral of army. That is actually really nice if you lead a stronger army. Another very good option is landholders, where you get manpower recovery speed 10%. I think this is always good. I choose, in my game, normally I would choose dynastic rule, because I can now do marriages. Marriages allows you to get personal unions. So, and the +2 diplomatic reputation is very beneficial too. The other two options, Board of Admiral or military rulership, I think that's only worth if you have a very strong republic. For example, military rulership, I would see that if you have the Prussian Republic government reform, and with the +0.5 yearly army tradition, land leader shock +1, you get a very strong general always, combined with maybe offensive or defensive ideas. All your generals have a lot of pips, and if they become, with the death of a ruler, the general becomes a leader of the country. So this could be that you generate a lot of strong rulers. So this could be an option if you run really strong on pips and really run a strong military country like the Prussian Republic. If you are interested in the Prussian Republic, maybe have a look at my Goslar guide. I did it there. Summarizing tier 11, my first pick would be always dynastic rule. Military rulership is very situational. And another good option would be citizenry for 10% army, morale, or landholders for manpower recovery speed. Tier 11 is again a set selection. though it's called office election. So I would always suggest foregoing advisor cost minus 5% and plus one advisor. Bureaucratic apparatus is only worse if you run a lot of trade companies. The minus 10% autonomy territories would work on them. This is helpful, but if you do not have a lot of trade company, it's not worth it. Extended suffrage, diplomatic free policies plus one, no, that's not worth it. Tier 12. If you are at the end of the food chain, and as I did in the 16th century, you will have it. Though strengthen executive powers, I think is the best pick here, with plus 25 absolutism, because you know, before 1034, absolutism was a weakness of republics, though with all the kind of government reforms you have now available and with kind of estates power, I think it's easily possible to hit 65 or 70 absolutism. You just need to have the right estates available and pick up the right government reform. So that's why tier 12, strengthen executive powers. The other two, I think re-election cost minus 10% and free admin policies is not worth it. And federal state, that you have a parliament and bribes costs are reduced, I think that's only worth it if you're going for a strong role-playing game. That was my guide about 1034 government reforms for republics. Maybe some of you have already seen it. I missed out certain kind of elements. I missed out pirate republics. I missed out revolutionary republics. Why is that? Because these kind of republics totally behave different from a normal republic. If you are interested in a pirate republic, for example Goatland, or revolutionary republics, please leave me a comment behind. I'm happy to do so. Furthermore, if you have seen anything that is wrong or you want to point out a correction or even a better thing that I have totally missed out, please feel free to do so. That will help other players and especially me to become better. For now, thanks a lot for watching. Please leave a like behind, subscribe to my channel and have a great day. Bye.